Welcome to it, sports fans. A different ball game. We're at it again. It is Youth Day in the Republic of South Africa. That's what people are saying to me. It is Youth Day. 19:30 on my clock. Welcome to it. A different ball game. Cliff Central Sport. The revolution has started. And yesterday we had an electric show, by the way. We had an electric show. Absolutely electric show. James Dalton was one of the most electrifying human beings that I've ever spoken to. What a show that was. But today, oh my goodness, I don't know if we've upped it. I don't want to be that guy. But we've got a pretty special guest today as well. So looking forward to that conversation a little bit later. We're going to talk a little bit of Premier League. We're going to talk some rugby. We're going to talk a little bit of everything. And joining me is the lovely Woude Muller. Woude, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. It was actually a nice day in Cape Town today. And I braved it and I went for a walk on the promenade. I was one of those people today.
Oh, just unflattening the curve as usual, as Cape Townians have been doing. Unbelievable.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Unbelievable. So it nearly snowed today in Johannesburg, but that is unbelievably boring because nobody cares what the weather is anywhere where they aren't. So nobody actually cares what we did because of the weather. Holiday today, did you work as a glorified personal trainer / biokineticist?
I actually didn't. I took off today.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen. Personal trainers just constantly taking off, barely paying tax. Unbelievable. It's an unbelievable world. And then they get a biokineticist certificate. It's unbelievable. And it's a BSc, isn't it?
Yes, the BSc.
That's
I did an honors degree.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's making a mockery of the academic system. But anyway, I don't have time to solve the world's problems because everybody who's joining us, and I can't tell you how grateful I am to everyone who's joining us because you could be anywhere. You could be doing anything with your time. So if you're ignoring your girlfriend or your boyfriend and if you're doing that for an hour because of us, that's awesome. I really appreciate that. Sorry to hear about your relations falling apart, but I am delighted you are with us. Absolutely delighted you're with us. And as I said, we're going to talk Premier League. We'll talk a little bit of rugby, the youngsters developing in South Africa, the ones we should be looking out for. And then later, we will have that special guest I told you about. Cannot wait. So we're going to start off with this. It is Premier League time. The boys are back in town, as the famous song goes. But things are a little bit different. So fitness levels won't be quite what they are. It's mid-season break. They probably haven't trained properly. You don't want to rush guys back. 5 subs. What is that going to mean? Is that going to make a difference in the squad depths? There's a lot of things to consider. But, Arsene Wenger called it another trophy. He essentially called it another trophy. Getting into the top 4 is another trophy. So I'm going to talk to you about what I think my top 4 is. And I think I've got it pretty spot on. I've done analytics. I've gone upstairs. I don't mean to God, but I've asked some analytics guys. And we are going to do this thing. And I'm going to tell you who my top 4 is. First, I'm going to start off by showing you their form because it's been, what's it been? Like 800 days since human beings were allowed to kiss each other. So let's just remind ourselves of how we look at the moment. All right. So the top 2 sewn up. We know like Liverpool's going to get all the points. City are going to get most of the points. These are the teams that are still in contention, right? Leicester, Chelsea, United, Wolves, Sheffield United. Leicester's last 5 has been a win, 2 draws, 2 losses. Chelsea's last 5 has been 2 wins, 2 draws, a loss. United, 3 wins, 2 draws, so unbeaten in the last 5. Wolves, 2 wins, 3 draws, unbeaten in the last 5. Sheffield United have only lost 1, drawn 2, 1-1. Now, what does this mean for the top 4? We know the rules are going to be slightly different, and it does make a difference what quality you have on the bench now. So I'm going to take you through each team and let you know what I think is going to happen in their remaining fixtures. We'll start with Leicester. Listen, I think they'll go away to Watford. That's a tough game because Watford are in relegation trouble. Nigel Pearson's done a great job getting those guys together. Troy Deeney's punching every single centre-back in the throat up there. So it is so tough against those guys. But I think they go away to Watford and they can do the business. Brighton at home. Listen, Leicester's got the second best home record in the league. They're not losing to Brighton, although Brighton are in serious trouble. I think they'll get the draw with Everton because I think Italian coaches, once they have their players, Carlo Ancelotti will have organised. At the very worst, Everton will come to Leicester and get the draw. Palace, I think, is an easy win. Palace season's over. Arsenal, I do think Arsenal are strong at home, and I think Arsenal will have a top 6 spot to play for still. Arsenal are mighty good at home. I don't see Leicester going to the Gunners and getting the win. I see them losing that game. Away of the Gunners, I think Arsenal beat Leicester 2-0. That's been my call. Bournemouth, I think they'll get the draw. I think Bournemouth are going to be scrapping. Sheffield United, who are unbelievable at home, I think a draw there. Spurs away. I don't think Mourinho's going to let any of the big sides come and embarrass him. I think he'll shut up shop. He'll park the bus, a 4-4-1-1 of sorts, call it a 5-5-0 really under Mourinho. And I expect the draw against Spurs. And then United at home. I think they'll beat United, and that could turn out to be a crucial game, by the way. That could turn out to be a very crucial game. Chelsea, what are they looking like? They've got a tough schedule. But I think they'll go away to Villa. They'll get the win. I think Villa will get relegated. Outside of Grealish, they've got nothing that is scary. Man City, hey, listen, Man City's going to have the option of Gundogan off the bench. Leroy Sané is coming back. No chance. As much as I want Chelsea to win, ain't happening. City are going to come to the bridge and make a mess of it. West Ham away, Chelsea win. Watford at home, Chelsea win. Crystal Palace away, easy win. I think Palace's season will be over. Sheffield United, tricky one because this could be crucial for top 4 as well. I think a draw. I think Lampard's actually been better away from home than he has been at. He's been away from home and he's been better there than he has been at home. I think a draw. Sheffield United, of course, drawing that dramatic 2-2 game at the bridge. Norwich, easy win. They'll be relegated by that time. Liverpool, I think, by that time, their minds will be in Marbella and celebrating, and Vegas. Their minds will be on holiday. They will have won the league by then. I think Chelsea can get a draw away at Liverpool at Anfield. And then I think this could be a crucial game, but I think Lampard with a full squad for the first time, he'll secure the win against Wolves. Here's where it starts to get interesting. Manchester United haven't lost in 5. But I don't think, if you didn't see me yesterday, I said it yesterday, if they play Paul Pogba and Fernandes and they don't hand the team over to Fernandes, I don't think that's going to work out. And I think Ollie's going to crumble to the pressure to play Pogba and Fernandes and try and split the responsibility. Doesn't work. You've got to give the team over to one guy. That's how it always works. Man City, you know who the guy is. It's De Bruyne. Everybody knows that. You don't share responsibility. When it was Ronaldo, it was Ronaldo. But let me take you through the results. Spurs, I think Mourinho's going to have a gripe. They're going to have to go away to Mourinho. Mourinho will park the bus again. I think he'll get the draw. Sheffield United, I expect a draw for United there. Brighton at home, I think Brighton are going to get relegated, and it'll be an easy win for United. A draw against Bournemouth, draw against Villa away. I don't think United are great away. Southampton, though, I expect a win at home, a win away at Palace. Palace's season will be over by then. They'll be mid-table. They don't care. Zaha on the beach, having the time of his life with a gold chain on. West Ham will be relegated by the time Man United play them, and then they lose to Leicester away. That is United's season. I think that last game could be crucial because I think they'll lose to Leicester away. Let's quickly run through Wolves. Wolves have an interesting way to end the season because they've really got a big mix of the top 6 and then a lot of relegation teams. A lot of relegation teams. That high intensity, though, I think will have worked in their favor to get this break because I think they'll go away to West Ham and get the win. They'll go at home, Bournemouth, they'll make mincemeat of them. Villa, I think it'll be a draw. It'll be a tough game because Villa might still be scrapping there, and Birmingham's not a great place to go to. And I think Grealish is doing all the right things, and he wants to go to Manchester United next season. Arsenal, I think they'll beat Arsenal at home. Arsenal are horrendous away from home. My goodness, they are bad. They are so bad. I look at this list, Arsenal aren't even here. What an embarrassment. Sheffield United away, I think Wolves will get the draw. They've got the intensity to match Sheffield United's running style and overlapping centre-backs. And this is the tough one. I think they'll beat Everton at home. Even with Carlo's organised nature, I just think they will grind them down. And I don't like Everton's goalkeeper. Hey, don't like short goalkeepers. If you're under 6'3", you shouldn't be a keeper. Jordan Pickford's a calamity. He's an absolute, he's a midget, right? Midget keeper. Anything under 6'3", I don't like it. Burnley away, I think they'll get the draw. Crystal Palace, I think they win. Chelsea, I think they lose. Chelsea, remember, beating them 5-2 at Wolves, by the way. So I think that's how that'll end their season. This is probably the heartbreak story of the season. This is why I mentioned that 5 subs will come into it. I think Sheffield United are going to be stretched too much to make that push for top 4. They just don't have enough in reserve. They've had Chris Wilder has to be the manager of the season. I don't care where they finish. If they finish top half with his budget, it's insane. Anyway, they'll go to Villa. They'll get the draw. They'll go to Newcastle and win. United, I think they'll get the draw because United away just aren't great. They just aren't. Burnley, they've got to go away to Burnley. I think that'll be tough. They will have been worn down by then. Of course, their players trying to get back into it. Not a big squad. Burnley, the draw. Wolves at home, I think they'll get the draw, as I said. Look, the Chelsea game, I'd thought about, and it's tough because Chelsea, I think we saw in the previous game, they've got Chelsea's number a little bit. I think it'll be a draw. They can hold Chelsea to a draw. I think they will go away to Leicester and lose. Leicester are no joke at home. My goodness, King Power Stadium, a fortress. And then I think they'll beat Everton because I think Everton will have secured top 6 at the end of the season. Carlo may want to see Moyes Keane and some of the new youngsters instead of playing all of the guys that are developed and ready to go already. So those are my results. I'm just gonna give you a look at all those results. Just looking through it, not looking good for Sheffield United. I just don't think that squad is deep enough. But what do these results mean? What do these results mean? Let's have a look at the final table. If my predictions are correct, which they almost certainly are. Folks, that's my top 4. I don't see it changing. Liverpool, they've got all the points in the world, by the way. All the points in the world on planet Earth, every point. The point of a triangle, the point of a fight, they've got all the points. Every single point on Earth belongs to Liverpool. City have most of the points. And then I think Leicester, the gap's just too big. And Leicester have developed some depth. I think Rodgers has done an incredible, incredible job there. Chelsea, for the first time, will have a fit squad. Kovacic will be fit at the same time as Loftus-Cheek, at the same time as Conte, at the same time as Billy Gilmore, who's been a sensation, a wunderkind. Chelsea will hold their position, secure that 4th spot, and the Champions League will remain as it is. United will come 5th purely on goal difference. That's it. And if I'm honest, I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is on the clock. Because they've now spent proper money, right? Bruno Fernandes, they've given him everything he wants at the back. They've given him Harry Maguire. He's got the lot now. He's got no excuse. There is no excuse now for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. If he doesn't make top 4 next season, arrivederci. Wolves have had an unbelievable season. That is an unbelievable season. 61 points, they'll tie United, and that'll be it. Tell me what you think. That's my top 4. I'd love to hear from everybody out there. But that, for me, I just don't see it changing. Chelsea have the depth. Loftus-Cheek is fit. Pulisic is fit. So Pulisic will be coming off the bench, by the way. That's an unbelievable team that Chelsea have. They've got 2 left backs, 2 right backs, like 5 centre backs, by the way, with Tomori being the backup with Zuma. Christensen has been unbelievable. Rudiger will be fit for the first time. Azpilicueta can kind of alternate. So I think they've got it there. Conte fit. Kovacic fit. Loftus-Cheek fit. Gilmore's coming on. Hudson-Odoi just need to stay away from the Instagram models. I mean, how hard is it? The sky. And then I think Lampard's ready to start another super team. That is my top 4, folks. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. I don't see it changing. And my God, Lampard is building a team and a half. Congratulations to Liverpool. Man City, just too much depth. Man City are going to have Leroy Sané as the 5th option on the bench. That's just sickening. Absolutely sickening. That's my top 4, folks. Cannot wait. Cannot wait. Before we get to Woude Muller, let me just tell you, if you play fantasy football, we're going to have an ad break after Woude delivers the rugby news to us. Go and join our fantasy football league. It's Cliff Central Fantasy. Cliff Central, one word. And as you can see over my shoulder, Cliff is 2 Fs. Cliff Central Fantasy. Go and join up on the Premier League Fantasy and we'll have some fun. And with that, I'm going to hand you over to the lovely Woude Muller.
So, and not only is it Youth Day in South Africa today, but it is also our captain Sia Khaleesi's birthday. So from all of us at Cliff Central Sport, we wish you a very, very happy birthday, Sia. Thank you for being such a great inspiration to everyone in South Africa, and especially the youngsters. You're definitely a very good role model to follow. So happy birthday. And seeing as it is Youth Day, I think it's a great opportunity to look at the youngsters that are coming through the ranks to possibly be able to play in the 2023 World Cup. If you watched last night's show, you would have heard that I do think that besides everything, I do think there's a great opportunity for South Africa to do very well in the 2023 World Cup. And I think a big part of that is because we have a very healthy group of youngsters coming through. And there's also a big part of the people that played in the 2019 World Cup that also play in 2023. Players that I picked, and I looked at a few, there were 5 players that came to mind who played in the Under 20 World Cup. And they're Oxenchair, Kerwin Bosch, Sanele Nohamba, Joano Augustus, and Salmat Murat. We all know Kerwin Bosch has had an outstanding 2020 season so far. Last year under Robert de Preer, Robert just screwed him over basically. And this year he really deserved the start and he's been playing extremely well. He's really controlled the game really well. And Salman Murat, he's coming through the ranks and he's showing some great spots of brilliance, but we'll still have to see with him. There are a few locks on the scene, so hopefully he'll show that. But for me, the 3 players that stood out and that I want to look at, especially Oxenchair. Now, Beast retired, and I think for anyone to try and fill Beast's shoes must be, that's no easy feat whatsoever, no matter how hard you try. But I think stepping into the Sharks team and taking that overall over from him, that's such a brilliant job. He's been so strong in the scrums. His work rate off the ball is absolutely incredible. And he's got quite a lot of pace and skill for a guy that big. So if we just have a quick look at his stats, he's only missed 4 tackles in this entire season. He's won 4 turnovers, 60 run meters. But I think what is more important is his work rate off the ball, getting in between rucks and breakdowns. So that is quite impressive. The next one is Joano Augustus. We know that Dwayne Vermeulen is 34 now, and it's probably time for him to start thinking about retiring, and I hope it will happen after the Lions tour next year. Everyone should know when it's time to go. So I think the Springboks will probably look for someone that is pretty much like Dwayne and trying to fill that role. So meaning someone big, someone strong, and someone physical. So the Stormers number 8, I think, is a great option. He's about 116 kilograms. He's 187 tall, so he's a big, strong guy. He was also player of the tournament at the Under 20 World Championships in 2017. And in that tournament, he scored a try in every single match that he played. I think John Dobson actually says he's built like a truck, and they gave him the nickname Trucky. I think it's the Stormers, if I'm not mistaken. So looking at those stats, only missed 5 tackles, 9 offloads, 2 defenders beaten. You're not going to get the greatest stats from him, pretty much like Billy Vunipola kind of stats if you're looking at that, but even better than that. So he can still move even though he's quite a big guy. And then the next one, Sanele Nohamba. For me, I love this guy. I loved watching him play this season. He's been coming off the bench for most of the games in the 2020 Super Rugby, but the 2 times that really stood out for me, one was when he had to play fly half when they were in New Zealand against the Hurricanes, because Kerwin Bosch couldn't play and Victor Chamberlain I think he got injured. And he had to slot into the number 10 jersey. So he's normally a scrum half. I think he's 167, small guy. He weighs like 64 kilograms, but he just handles every situation that gets thrown at him. So even with the kicking game, I mean, he got 2 out of 3 goals, 21 kicks in a game. So his kicking's not that bad. And the second time was when Louis Schroeder was on the receiving end of a very dangerous tackle in the game against the Stormers. And that was the top of the log match against the Stormers, the last game that we played before lockdown. And in that game, he had to play majority of the game, and he just showed that he really reads the game so well. He's a natural ball player. He just slotted in. So he's one of my guys that I'm definitely watching. Then there are 2 guys that I think need a special mention. They didn't play under 20 Springboks. Skumbusha Noche, I hope I pronounced that properly, and Aphelele Fassi. So I think the Stormers are probably kicking themselves for letting this guy go, because the moment that he started playing for the Sharks, he really showed what he is made of. He is a little bit older, I must say, but if we just have a look at his stats coming up here, he has only missed 2 tackles the entire season that he's played. 259 run meters, 8 clean breaks, 4 offloads, 22 defenders beaten, and he's playing off the number 8. He's playing on number 8 at the moment. I think he's just such a dynamic player, and he can really move with ball in hand. He's very dangerous with ball in hand, and I really, really like him. So between him and Augustus, I think it's quite a tight competition of probably who would take over that number 8 jersey. And then the last one is Aphelele Fassi. I think those stats speak for themselves. Playing on fullback for the Sharks, he missed quite a few tackles. Defensively, he's not that great. He had 460 run meters, 66 carries, 13 clean breaks. I mean, he's just such an incredible player. Might need a little bit of beef on his body, but I think the Sharks will be able to do that. So for me, those are the guys that I really would look out for when rugby comes back. And it's such a pity that we can't see them play in the test matches that would have come in July. So I don't know what you think, Mbulelo, if you're going to disagree with me.
I like that list. I think I've always liked Sikumbuza Noche, and I think he's probably in trouble in terms of being the Bok 8, because Rassie Erasmus has been consistent always with picking a certain type of number 8. Now, a lot of people who may not have tracked Rassie is that Rassie actually likes a number 8 as his fetcher, actually. Because if you remember, Dwayne Vermeulen is not a natural number 8. If you remember back to his Free State days, he played in the 7 jumper more often than not. So he's actually a flanker and an absolute pit bull at the breakdown. So what Rassie has always liked to do was have his 8 as a fetcher. Now, understanding what Rassie's trying to implement, I think where Noche loses out is Noche is probably more like an Ardie Surveyor type, you know? He wants to carry the ball. He wants to be in the tram lines. He wants to, probably be with the 15 for the counter attack. Whereas Rassie wants a defensive 8. We saw no matter what, he didn't move away from Dwayne. And love or hate Dwayne, I mean, I won't say what I think of him, but he's the perfect number 8 for Rassie Erasmus. And I'd imagine Nienaber will hand over to that. So I would say Augustus is in the pound seat for me, because he fits more into the Bok mold and what they're trying to do. So
yes, no, I completely agree with you.
Yeah. And I think Fassi. Go ahead.
I like Noche because that's the kind of player that I like and to see in the guy, especially when he's got ball in hand. But like I said, Augustus definitely fits in better with, if you have to step into someone that is exactly kind of Dwayne Vermeulen's shoes, Augustus fits it a little bit better.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's not about picking the best players. We've seen that. It's about picking the right player. And Rassie's shown he's a system guy. Rassie's not interested in talent. He's interested in, do you work for the system? And I think, he's probably starting to filter that out to some of our Super Rugby sides is, guys, stop being obsessed with the best player. Stop being obsessed with the best team. And I think Fassi might fall into that as well. He's still very, very loose. I love him as like a Christian Cullen figure. I love watching him. I don't know if he's a Bok 15. I think both of the Sharks guys they'd probably be better All Blacks. to be honest. I feel sorry for them.
Yeah.
I don't see them making the box high, but Oxen Chair he's a different breed.
Oh, I like him. He's really, he's also, I think he's 24 now. So by the next World Cup, he'll be 27, 28. And a prop just gets better with age. He just gets to know the scrums better and he knows what the other person's going to do better. So with experience, he's just going to get better. And in every single game that he played up until now, every time he's just getting better and better. So I'm really looking forward to see what we can get out of this guy.
No, it's fantastic. I think, I said to someone, he is like Osturant with melanin. That's all he is, because he's so explosive. What I love about him is he's so explosive. He's your real modern day prop. He's not just a guy holding up one side of the scrum. And I absolutely love that. Love that. I love it. I think he's got a chance to, big words, but I think he's got a chance to be better than the Beast because he's a better natural athlete.
Yeah.
He just is. I mean, Beast had to graft and work to be what he is. Oxen Chair just, hey, take me out the box. I'm ready to go, coach.
Yeah, I mean, those are very big words because it's, sure. I mean, coming out of Beast's shadow and playing that way it's going to be hard work. But like you said, I think it comes more naturally to him and just what he's shown to us now. Like I said, his pace and his skill is just something else. It's he's fast for a guy that big.
he is fast for that big. And was Schroeder's tackle that you were talking about, was that where Peter Steph Toy's brother nearly tried to decapitate him?
Yeah, that is. In the first minutes of the game, it was literally in the first minutes of the game with this Stormer Sharks game. And he basically took Schroeder out, which I mean, probably not the worst.
How's that not a red card?
The Sharks. That's not. How that wasn't a red card is, I could not for one second believe what the referee did there. But the only reason why it could have been that was the first minutes of the game, the ref's like, I'm not going to mess up this game by giving him a red card. But it was shocking. A shocking call. That
was unbelievable. We're going to have to get Jonathan Kaplan on here to explain that to me.
So for those who don't know the tackle, it was literally a complete tip tackle. He basically picked up Louis Schroeder and he dumped him on his head.
Yeah, it was off the kickoff. It was off the kickoff, and he tackled him in the air. It was absolutely mental. No. It was like UFC with a hovercraft. It was madness. And what I don't get, like, hey, are you waiting for the guy's neck to get broken before you give the red card? Just give the guy Anyway, listen, maybe the ref's seen Peter Steph Toy, his brother, the size of him, and then you look at the younger brother's size. Yeah, and I understand there's another Dutoy brother, by the way. Really? From what I understand. I think there's a third one. We'll check with our guest after the break. I don't know, but I stand to be corrected. You can imagine how big he's going to be. So if there's another one of those, no referee wants to be caught in a car park.
Seems like we're going for a Barrett situation here in South Africa.
Can you imagine the size of Barrett's dad? Also, excuse me, Peter Toy's dad. Peter Steph Toy's dad must be like a house, a human house. Like when you have two of those kids, right? What do you feed them? What on earth do you feed those two?
Well, they grew up on a farm, so obviously had a lot of meat.
Yeah, Bornwell meat was cheap. But that's like feeding. Seriously, that's like feeding two fully grown lions. So would they have to like go into the field and kill a cow every day to feed these? Peter Steph Toy is. Do you know what he looks like? He looks like a caricature. He's so big. I once walked past him. The senior Skalkberger is the most caricature-looking person I've ever met. He's the biggest person I've ever met. His hands look like, when you go to an American sports event with that 7-Up thing? That's what Skalkberger's dad's hands look like. Peter Steph Toy's forearms look like the Hulk, like Popeye.
He's like bigger than my entire body.
No, it's absolutely ludicrous. Hey, maybe that's why he didn't give a red card for Louis Schroeder. Yeah. So those are youngsters. Those are the youngsters, huh? Vodi, and you still on the train that the Boks are going to win the next World Cup?
I mean, like I said, a lot can happen in 4 years, but if we do follow the template that we are now and make it better, I definitely think that there's a big chance that we can, or do really well in the next World Cup, especially.
Yeah, listen, hey, that fullback conversation is going to get interesting because we'll talk to our guest after the break. He's just signed a fullback. And of course,
Yes.
I'm sure that he cannot wait. His fullback must be raring to go to say, hey, Mr. Motsepe, Mr. Rupert, you made a mistake by letting me go. I'm going to go down to the Cape and show you what's up. Wow.
Yeah, well,
okay.
Woude
Muller.
Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, to see where he's going to play his best players. So it will be interesting to see what happens when the rugby resumes.
It will be interesting. Hey, Woude, good stuff. Good stuff. That is the skip pass, ladies and gentlemen. Good stuff. So those are the youngsters of the future. I think the Sharks are onto something. What the Sharks are saying is we are going to have a solid tight five. And what a solid tight five, this is where the Crusaders always win. It's not a mistake that the Crusaders are the best. It's not a mistake. The Crusaders always say we're going to have the best tight five. If not the best tight five, we'll have the second best tight five every season in rugby. Because rugby is not complicated. Get the fatties to get the ball to the fast guys. That's what the Crusaders do. Hey, fatties, stay out the way. The fatties must ruck over. You give it to the back line. The Crusaders have the best fly half in the world. That's what they do. Let the number 10 control the game. I think that's what the Sharks are doing. They've got a phenomenal tight five, and they're outside three in Mampimpi, Fasi, and Tamboy. Oh, my gosh. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And then the centers. Oh, they just got a one guy who threw a no-look pass in the World Cup final. No big deal. No big deal. Maybe the next Springbok captain. No big deal. I'm just throwing no-look passes in the World Cup final. The Sharks are onto something. After the break, talking about the Sharks, talking about rugby. Listen, I'm getting fired up. I can't wait for South African rugby to come back. Jacinda Ardern, the real-life Daenerys Targaryen, released every single New Zealander to go and watch rugby on the weekend. It was like 900,000 people inside the stadium. I cannot wait for that to happen in South Africa. After the break, we're going to find out, is it possible? Our guest after the break is heavily involved in rugby. I would call him heavily involved in rugby. I imagine it occupies a small part of his day. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you on the other side of this.
The Gareth Cliff Show, live weekdays 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., as well as on podcast. Gareth Cliff and his team bring you uncensored, real conversation about everything in the news, interviews, aging material, and a healthy dose of inspiration and intelligence. To get in touch, email contact@cliffcentral.com. That's contact@cliffcentral.com. The Gareth Cliff Show, without limits, we give you entertainment, provocative content, and unhinged reality. The Gareth Cliff Show is available on cliffcentral.com, the Cliff Central app, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Great music in the ad break there. Dave, the voice of God. So every now and then, the voice of God talks to me. Great music. Oh, thumpers. Bangers, as the kids are saying. Great job there. Great job, Dave. Great job all around to everyone. I'm just in a great mood today. You know, I had a great workout. I went for a run in the afternoon. It was basically snowing. I nearly died. It was wonderful. I nearly died. It was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Anyway, enough about my near-death encounters because of weather and human beings getting weak because it wasn't actually that cold and we're fine and we used to live in snow and worse conditions with no clothes and thermal jackets. So harden up is basically what I'm saying to myself and society in general. Now that I've told everyone that I'm better than them, I'm going to tell you about my guest. Might as well bring him straight in. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the second most famous Dobson. He is a rugby guru. His father was a rugby guru. All I can imagine is that anybody with the surname Dobson anywhere, everywhere that's ever lived is a rugby guru. Ladies and gentlemen, the head coach of the Stormers, the one and only, John Dobson.
Definitely the best introduction I've ever heard. I was ready to fight.
Mr. Dobson, how are you?
Licking yourself, thanks for having me.
Listen, John, I was telling you before this is great Wi-Fi because we've had some guests on and I've been like, what world are you living in with that internet? Just great Wi-Fi. So I want to thank you for that.
Okay, it's a very old house, so there's thick walls. And,
yeah. Listen, as the old saying goes, old house, great Wi-Fi. I'm sure you know the saying, Aristotle. But anyway, let's not get into it too much. I don't want to bore you with my intelligence because I'm seeing all your books. I'm trying to impress you with how smart I am.
Yeah, James Dalton on last night. So it's very similar.
There's only one bullet. There's only one bullet. Hey, listen, coach.
Luckily, yeah.
There's only one universe. Listen, one bullet a universe. They've been saying one bullet a universe. Coach, I appreciate you. I appreciate you, and thank you so much for joining us. And I know before this, I gave the coach a call, and he said, "Oh, sorry, I'm gonna have to call you back. You were on the line with some." I don't know what his name is. It was some Rusty Erasmus guy. I was so offended that you put me on hold for that guy. Like he's a world champion. But coach, unbelievable. But coach, I appreciate you. Listen, coach, I wanna just get straight into it. Tell me, I want to talk about. Let me start with your old man. Has rugby been always like something where it was almost like no option for you, or was he kind of like do your old thing, and we can get into who your father is?
No, look, I grew up pretty much at Newlands. You know, my dad. I think I said to you on the phone earlier. My dad was probably one of the few last guys who was at that 1949 test, which was the first one in Newlands in 12 years since before the Second World War. I don't think he's missed a game since since then. So what's that? 71 years. So no, I didn't really have much choice in it, but it was fun.
So it was always rugby or death.
He kept wondering. I remember when I was like 12, he said he wondered if there's life after rugby. I remember him so amusing to me. And it stayed with me.
Oh, man. I bet the Stormers are so glad. Look, let's talk about the current situation because it would be tone deaf to ignore the fact that,
100%.
you know, I was a low-level sportsman myself, and I know how much of a routine I got into in school and a little bit after school when I tried to take sports seriously for about 5 minutes, is that sportsmen, a lot of people don't realize, are creatures of habit, right? All they know is physios going, you drink this, take this, bench this many, be here this time, be on the bus this time. That is your life if you're that talented from about 15, 16. Now without rugby, as a leader of a team, what are you experiencing? Are guys anxious? Are you seeing what's happening with our rugby players as people?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and it's probably the most poignant one at the moment. Yeah, the first 3 week and then that 2 week extension, fine. You know, it's just a weird situation, and we'll get back on. But since then, I've seen a dramatic fall off in the interest, in the in the sort of interactions amongst themselves, the anxiety. We've got a team psychologist, and we've got an external sort of therapist if the guy wants to stay very private. And both of them are getting busier and busier, which is a pretty simple yardstick about the anxiety levels growing in the group. And I think on two fronts, one of which you say the tangible day-to-day stuff, because a lot of these guys, from when they're 16, they know when they're flying, when they're landing, as you say, what they're eating. They haven't really had to make decisions. They haven't had to fend for themselves in some, their first contract was out of Crane Week or whatever. So there's there's the routine, and there's the sort of just the day-to-day element. And the other thing is, I suppose, like an Olympic athlete who's got it even harder, has been working 4 years to row, in the Olympics, and that gets taken away. Their meaning's taken away. There is no job, and they can't do anything else. They're conditioned to fight. They are the modern day gladiators, and that. So I think, it really has been quite sad to see, and I appreciate when probably the whole of this conversation, the whole of this show, it's in context of what's going on in a society that's beyond, and a much bigger. But we do have a topic that we need to address, and I've just seen it fall away. I think, Muller, you mentioned Sia earlier. I think, I wasn't a part of the World Cup, and I thought he led well and everything. I think how he's led the sort of country over this last, this period's been stellar, absolutely stellar. But he's a certain genre and profile and everything like that. I think the average rugby player is really struggling at the moment. Yeah, obviously pay cuts also, but just their whole meaning, and as you said, their whole routines are finished.
It's very difficult for people on the outside to ever understand, because, these guys are the 1% of the 1%. Not only have they won a genetic lottery, but they've almost killed themselves to get where they are. Very few people know the type of sacrifice you have to get to this type of space. And I think, Coach, something I'd love to hear your take on. Winning is an ugly business, and winning takes grind. It takes absolute grind. And these guys are willing to do it day in, day out, because they've probably had to fight off, maybe 15, 20 other rugby players to be a stormer. So when you take away that, like you said, the will to get up and go and win, that can't be easy. That cannot be easy for people that are programmed to, it's me against you, like you said, gladiators. Their job is to win. How do you feel that in normal life? I
can't answer. I think you've hit it spot on. There's the physical element, the genetic lottery. And the other thing is, and Woude knows better, these guys are going to go in, and we had six guys, 6 World Cup Springboks who got catastrophically injured in our first 6 games. Kitself, Giant Cheese, Mnambi, Sia. And so, each game, they run on the field knowing that 1/7, maybe 15% of that team will do a horrible injury, that's going to require surgery or being out for 3 months. They still better go and put their bodies on the line in this quest, as you say, to go and win. So there's a different wiring up there to you or me, you know what I mean? That your day job, it comes down to Saturday afternoon where you can tear every single ligament in your knee, and you're going to start the rehab of that, and you're going to do it, and you're going to go out there and do everything you can, and that you can't cheat or creep or walk for that much. It's something freakish. So it isn't, I think what you're alluding to, Muller, which is the same thing, it's not quite the same as a normal person not going to work. In fact, it's very different. And I do worry about it. I do worry about a lot of their well-being.
Sure. And I think that's very real. Sometimes we forget that they are human beings. They are supernatural in terms of the physical being, but they're still human beings who want their worth. A lot of their worth is within their physical ability and their showmanship. That becomes a part of their identity. And I hope we can get back as soon as possible. You touched on Siya Kolisi. Go ahead, Coach.
One more thing on that subject. You probably think probably the people, the public, or me, if I wasn't coaching, think, they're bloody lucky. They get a free car, they live a great life, they stay in this hotel, and they get the adulation of 20 or 30 or 40,000 people and all this stuff. But I think if you were the guy working at Shell Oil and think, Stephen Kitself's so lucky, I think you put the guy from Shell Oil into Stephen Kitself boots for 20 minutes. That guy will want to get back to Shell very quickly, and how they play. So you are spot on in raising this as an issue.
Yeah, look, for me, I've got no time for anybody who says sportsmen are lucky. As I said, I played a little bit of sport overseas for a while, and I enjoyed let's just enjoy. I used to enjoy a cocktail every now and then instead of going to practice. Yeah, a cocktail.
Me too.
They said James Dalton. I never thought I'd say this out loud, but James Dalton taught me a crazy lesson yesterday, which I will take with me for the rest of my life. He said, I wasn't difficult. I was just misunderstood. And I thought that was a wonderful message from the Bullet himself. So we touched on Sia just now, Coach.
Yeah.
What is it about him? Because at first, I guess, you know, there's always these things of, maybe he's just, the media are hyping him. But I mean, you can only pretend for so long. You know, you can't pretend for as long as Sia has been pretending. There's clearly something about him. What is it about him that is he the type of leader who draws people to him? What's his leadership style? And what makes him this guy that, you know, corporate companies don't just go to anybody. What is it about this guy? He's got this, I hate to put this on him, but he's got like a Madiba kind of aura. What is it about this guy?
Again, you've nailed it. I mean, he came to my house last night because for us to have a sort of finding each other again chat, because, you know, he got injured in the first game. So I actually haven't worked with him that much, you know, obviously this season, barely, you know, a couple of weeks or a few months in pre-season. And then, and we stayed in touch, obviously, but heart to heart. And last night for a good few hours, you know, and I think, you know, and I thought, you know, I wasn't party to the World Cup, like I said. And I thought, yeah, maybe things went really well for the Springboks. Some things worked out. You know, Carl Sinclair got concussed. Sia was representing a nation, and we knew the backstory to that. And I thought, gee, but it's nice. It's great. It's a great story. Full stop. But just we're seeing what he's done, and as I said, over lockdown. But even before that, when he hugs you or comes into a room or bends over with his laughter, like you said, the Madiba-esque, it just lights up the whole room, and you just feel the warmth welling up in a room. Now, I'll give you a very small example, which comes from today. Today, being Youth Day, which sounds like a very nice, it's a very nice something nicer way of saying what the terrible things that happened on this day 44 years ago. But it's his birthday, and he's a popular figure everywhere, so it's an absolutely chaotic day. One of the girls who works in our laundry died of cancer this morning, and you know, we sit on the players group, you know, we're going to raise money for Chrissy's funeral and everything like that. And I get a call from Khaleesi, and you can hear he's in the middle of chaos. He's got 1 million children there and family, and it's his birthday, and everybody wants a piece of him all the time. And he was emotional, saying, you know, we will pay for her funeral, and I will feed her and her, well, not her, sorry, for obvious reasons, her family for the foreseeable future. You know, and the amount of it just goes to it's just the sheer humanity of the man. And I think that's how he earns the respect of his peers. And he's just, yeah, I must admit, the more I get to know and the more I work with, you know, sometimes you have relationships, ask Vody to go the other way. You know, the more you get to know somebody, you know, the more this just goes, you know, the more I get to know him, the depth and everything. He speaks very well, but we were actually telling him, I was saying to him last night, you know, you don't have to speak so much. It's just who you are, and yes, it just means so much to the team, you know, and to society, and the way he's adopted this role, because it cannot be easy, you know. I mean, I'm far removed from Sia Khaleesi. I get 5 requests a week from good causes, you know, a literacy society, people running a feeding team in Massapequa, can you speak to Sia? Or this guy running a scholarship program, can you ask Sia to come speak to these young entrepreneurs to come and donate money? And I don't know how he manages it, you know. So I think we're looking at really one of the icons of our generation, potentially, you know.
Yeah, he's phenomenal, because his Instagram photos are constantly, like, Rachel's like on that. He's managing that as well. It's like living on a fashion shoot, and then he still comes and manages to run the country. Phenomenal. So, Coach, I want to move on to something else, which I find very, very interesting. So we find ourselves in a space where, okay, we don't have rugby in South Africa. We don't know where that's going to go. But the global picture, right? There's obviously been murmurs of what Sanzar did and how the shape of Super Rugby has changed. The global picture of rugby is changing. Are you for going to the North? And if so, why? If not, why not?
Yeah, you know, I don't see the North. I don't see the North becoming. I know we're in global season. I don't see them becoming a summer sport. I think there's too much tradition. They're very old fuddy-duddies in the UK, not quite like soccer. People got tattoos and earrings and things like that. You know, in rugby, they wear barber jackets and they're the old Burberry wearers, not the new Burberry wearers. So if you know what I mean. So
I do.
So I'm not sure, and we can't really play through. You know, it's a failed experiment in Pro 14. Us playing through summer. cheaters playing on Boxing Day or that sort of stuff. But I'm not sure about. I've got another formula which I think will work, but I think the pressure on Super Rugby is absolutely enormous now. We could just look at you don't have to be any form of economist or just to look at. We'll tell you from Newlands, we were maybe 40,000 a Super Rugby game 10 years ago. You could see it in any stadium, 10,000. Watch the Rebels playing in a massive stadium with 3,000 or 4,000 people. We all remember the Super 12 of the early noughties where, Super 12, 11 teams played at a semi-final, final, games sold out. It was just, it was a phenomenal product. And now to see Loftus, last year with a crowd of 3,000 or 4,000 for a Stormers game, it shows you the product is absolutely broken. The fact that we can't, the Springboks play the All Blacks and we have to move it to Albany because we won't fill Eden Park. That's also crazy. So the Northern Hemisphere, on the other hand, is booming. They got this money from CVC, the guys who own Formula One. They've invented in Pro 14. They're in the Premiership. Six Nations, you'll fill out every game forever. But where they're clever is England are only in Scotland once every 2 years. Boylo, who was a great old Springbok from the 30s or 40s, my dad knew him, obviously. He said, whenever your country plays New Zealand, whenever South Africa plays New Zealand, consider your country at war. We're at war 4 or 5 times a year. We can't even we won't even sell out, Ellis Park anymore for an All Black test. So we got our products dramatically wrong here. And I think that what we need to do is I think we need to fix Super Rugby, make it simpler in terms of 12 teams, 11 semi-final, final. And then the key is to return to touring. Because we now are looking at the elite of our franchises, the 4 franchises and sometimes the Cheetahs and the Kings. But can you imagine if the Lions were here or New Zealand were in South Africa for 14 games, which one included SA students, the Griffins in Welcome on a Wednesday afternoon, South African Barbarians in Uppington, you'd get 15,000 people packed in. It would just be, you build the character of this tours. We go to tour New Zealand, the Lions are in Australia. You could work out a program like that. But the British Lions tour, everybody's absolutely amped for the Lions tour for the last 4 or 5 years. It's going to be the biggest rugby economic event outside of the World Cup and for South African sports since the FIFA World Cup. And we could have New Zealand here every 3 years, not in a meaningless way. If I asked you who won the rugby championship 3 years ago, we'd guess New Zealand. It would probably be right because it's New Zealand. But who won Super Rugby 3 years ago or Australia? We don't remember. I don't care. It's meaningless at the moment. And that's why we have to get back to a less is more concept, get real big touring, get rid of these meaningless rugby games. So if you had a hybrid, I'm going on too long. So if we went to the Northern Hemisphere at the end of every year and played, not every year, every third year, England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, the great old Grand Slam tours. Because I don't care, these tours at the end of the year where we play Italy and Padua, Wales and Cardiff, and then Ireland, or the Barbars outside of the test window with some guy from Boland making his debut. It's not what either go play France for 3 tests. Go and play France for 3 tests in France. Get cheated and tough and play against French students, have a referee who cheats, just make the thing. Or go and play England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, or stay at home and rest. So the Springbok brand grows and we can't wait. At the moment, we can't wait for them to play again. We're the world champions. We want to play. I guarantee if we played some meaningless rugby between now and then, there wouldn't be the same feeling. So it's not about, to me, the standard of a rugby or whether we're north or south. It's just the product of the competition. And, a strong Currie Cup, a shorter Super Rugby, and proper tours, and you'll see a different world automatically.
So, Coach, you've dedicated your whole life to rugby. So let me, as somebody who's never dedicated their life to rugby at all, tell you how we fix this thing, right?
Okay.
Here's how we do it. I've always thought this is we've got the business model. The NFL and the EPL are the business model. Make your local league strong. So just for a second, I've always said, forget about international sport, because I've always said to people, every sport where international sport is the pinnacle is the most amateur. And you can go through all of them, right? If you go to football, club is the best. If you go to NFL, the clubs are the best. You go to the NBA. So forget about international sport. That'll take care of itself. It's why cricket and rugby are falling behind. They're so obsessed with people that play the least. What you do is forget about the national stuff. Make your local leagues the strong. So we should be focused on the Currie Cup should be the strongest tournament in the world.
100%.
Right? So then the international naturally will be strong, right? So stop focusing on New Zealand. I actually don't care about them. And if we're going to have a Trans-Tasman tournament, is 2 of our teams from Super Rugby, the 2 best from New Zealand, the 2 best from Australia, play in a Champions League style. But the focus is local always. We make sure that Mbonambi doesn't want to leave in 2 years. He retires here, so that you know, you look at what a tragedy it was for the New England Patriots. If you don't follow the NFL. Tom Brady leaving was a disaster. You need your heroes to be here, so people will pay that extra $100 to come and make it their team. Right now, I don't want to talk against your team, but most people won't feel attached to the team because some of your guys are. It's like a revolving door, right? So we've got it completely wrong by obsessing with the Springboks. Forget about the Springboks. The Springboks will be fine. Focus on the leagues. Your thoughts from a guy who's never ever been an administrator in rugby.
I think that's absolutely brilliant. I couldn't agree with you more. If the Currie Cup was a meaningful competition played over the whole year with the Springboks playing, and the Springboks played 5 or 6 tests, you'd sell out every test, you'd sell out every Currie Cup game. The guys would play the Springboks would play every Currie Cup game. I literally could not agree with you more. And that is why we've flooded it at the wrong level. And that's why I agree. We worked very hard to keep our Springboks here. Probably got more World Cup Springboks than any other franchise, and that was because we wanted to get people, interested. It's tragic, of the 33 or 32. There might be one out. Of the 33 Springboks who played in the World Cup, 11 are in South Africa. That takes us. If I was to extend your argument about being focused in the wrong way, we will end up being Fiji in terms of being a net exporter of players, you know what I mean? And then there's no domestic rugby market, and the kids stop playing, and it's old Mother Hubbard. You are completely. I think it's a very good idea. You're a genius.
I think I'm right. It's true. Yeah. It's true. I think I'm right, and I think I should be paid millions of rands to fix everything. Coach, let's move it forward a bit. Your father, Paul Dobson, is one of the greatest legends, and what he is he's an oracle of rugby because he's been watching it since Lord knows when. When he's around us, this is a legendary figure. What is it that he feels about the current state of rugby, what he saw in the past? Is rugby getting better in his mind? Is it getting tougher? What does he say about the current state of rugby? Because I'm actually not too sure where rugby is right now as a product, as a game.
I think, I always roll my eyes and think he's too old fashioned, but he has got it right. There were lots of old values in the amateur thing, which is the way forward, for rugby. Because, I've coached professional teams. We won trophies. We've never had a reunion or the guys just drift off in their own, whereas when I coached UCT, we beat Stellenbosch in 2004. The guys have a 5-year reunion, a 10-year. The guys bride together. Those guys who, I know UCT, they won InterVarsity in 1976. Nick Mallett, him of the really, really big head. His team, they get together also, every 10 years, 50, they have a reunion and get together and have a laugh. And the amateur guys played for each other. I know they weren't conditioned. I know they had day jobs, but they really did play for each other. And the stories and there was just a different sort of camaraderie. And that's why I think by us becoming so vanilla, I think he's just, just playing games for the sake of it. In fact, because they've sold something to a broadcaster, is sad. My dad thinks, we've lost this sort of soul. He would think with professionalism. We'd have to be professional now, but how we structure the competitions and that. I mean, UK football, I don't think would have changed. Like you were saying, let's say Huddersfield wouldn't have changed as much in the last 30 years as, say, for example, Western Province have. In terms of those guys probably played with the same passion as they do now, even if they got a few guys from Spain. So I think a lot of old. To me, the future of rugby is actually in the past, and that might sound completely axiomatic or idiosyncrasy. The future is in the past, less rugby, more meaning to it. The touring, like I said, like you said, the strong domestic competition. That is the future of rugby. If we carry on like this, surely some guy with a goatee and earrings sitting at Sky, I think I'm writing a check for £500 million a year for Super Rugby, sees Rebels play against the Force in front of 500 people in a ice cream cellar. He's going to say, I'm stopping that. Do you know what I mean? Huddersfield plays coach. You can't buy seats, so.
Yeah, get the product right. Hey, coach, I just wanted to ask you, what's it like to be the second most famous Dobson? I hate to bring this up. Does that hurt your feelings, or how do you deal with that? Did you cry into the pillow by yourself at night?
No, I drink, and I drink when he's not
Ah,
looking.
listen, coach,
Solves
I appreciate that. This has been an incredible conversation. And talk me through, before I let you go, and I appreciate you giving me this much time, what is the plan for the Stormers over the next 2 years? Are you looking to develop from within, or are you looking to acquire the best talent? Because we've just seen what you've done at 15. Maybe you want to tell us about, are you excited about getting that young man, and you can tell us who that is at 15 from the Bulls?
Yeah, I'm absolutely thrilled about that, about Warwick Gelant. He's not a drinker. Honestly, it's a sort of that's a sort of entry interview. Do you drink?
Yeah.
But,
well, it's because his dad's not more famous than him. But anyway, carry on. I interrupted you. Please carry on.
No, listen. We did all our research on Warwick. What a professional is, how much he trains. We've seen what his potential is. And I checked with Damien Willemse because, we had looked at moving Damien to fullback. A lot of pressure on him, Flav, and this national team is obviously at fullback. And I phoned him, and knowing they might compete for fullback, I said, do we bring Warwick? And he said, you've got to get Warwick. And I spoke to Sia and said, got to get Warwick. Great team guy. That's the first. If you had Sia or somebody who knows him well, like Herschel, saying, it's going to disrupt. They said, please get Warwick. And Damien then said, hey, he'll stick at fly half. Look, I think Damien Willemse is completely, there's a staggering over emotional reaction to a really, really talented rugby player. The kid's just turned 22. I haven't seen a guy with his physicality, competitiveness, knowledge of rugby. I can go on for Damien Willemse for years.
All right, hold on. Let's talk about him.
Yeah.
Sorry, Coach. Let's talk about him, because I'm glad you brought him up. Number one, what is his best position, right? So you're his coach. Where's he going to play? Because everyone at home's like, I played 15, 10. What are they doing? They're going to turn him into Ruan Pina, blah, blah, blah. What is his best position? And tell me, what is the plan with him? Because I see raw talent, but we are on the outside. We're like, what is happening there?
Yeah, I think, as I said, I thought there was some emotional overreaction because he missed a few penalties. He didn't kick enough on the penalties for touch. And I think he dropped 2 balls in Super Rugby this year, and people know he's a terrible fly-off. I think 10 and 15 are so interchangeable now. You watched that Springboks game against the All Blacks when we lost in the opening game of the World Cup. I think Villiers Leroux was at fly-half only 4 times less than Pollard was, so a first receiver. So they're very interchangeable. But I think we see him as a 10. I think he's going to be one of the great fly-offs. We're judging a guy who's 22, just turned 22. He's amazingly physical. He's got incredible step, as you know. He can pass. We have to coach him. That's the thing, into game management. And that's not something that comes easily. We're giving him too many options at the moment. We haven't given him to spend enough time on his basic game management. And, of course, the national team he's been playing at fullback. And so he doesn't mind, and he'll do anything for the team. But let me tell you a really silly story, which may not be that silly if you think about it. We took a Currie Cup team there to Kimberley, where everybody wants to go, in 2018. And I took them on the morning of the game, or the morning before the game. I took them to that museum, the mine museum with the Groot Gat and that sort of thing. And there's a nice sort of pseudo mining village outside, and the guys could have a coffee and walk around. And I think there was another 80 rand to go into the actual hole, to go into that little platform that goes over the hole. And most of the guys, being rugby players, said no, they'll go for a coffee rather. And the only guy in that group was who bought the 80 rand ticket to go and see the hole and see where the miners had died. It was Damien Willemse, and he was reading a book on Adolf Hitler, which was about this thick, And he was, he must have been maybe 19 years old. I just thought, and this guy knows every detail, And then it might sound silly, but there is a lot there, and it's our job actually to coach him, because you can't say he's not big enough. You can't say he's not fast enough. You can't say he can't step. You can't say he's not skilled. The thing we just have to teach him is game management and show him some belief, and that's our plan for him. And that's why when Warwick was available, to me, it was just an absolute no-brainer. We might pay a bit of rent in it for a little while, but we haven't got Mornay staying as a metronomic kicker there. But I promise you the returns are going to be spectacular.
Oh, that is fabulous to hear. Like, not enough coaches do what you just did, right? And I love what you just said, is not enough coaches take responsibility and say, I have to coach this guy, because I've always said rugby is a coaching sport. Football's a talent sport. My game's football. Rugby is a coaching sport. It's a highly technical thing. And what I love about what you've just said, about Willemse, is that he's smart, because number 10s need to be able to take lots of information on. They need to see the whole field. And that is phenomenal, Coach. I cannot wait. Coach, before I let you go, we got some social media, and people have questions for you. So, Dave, what we got for the coach? Mark LaRue says, John, are you stressed with losing players to the Bulls? How are you counteracting it? Hey, Patrice Motsepe and Johan Rupert, those guys could buy like 8 countries together. Are you? Wow. That's a great question, Mark LaRue. How are you feeling about the Bulls basically having the GDP of America as a budget?
Yeah, no, that is, it's they're a bit wealthier than us. Luckily, there's a salary cap, and hopefully it's properly enforced in South African rugby. The players, there's, maybe you're referring to Gio Aplon. He was coming from Japan and 37 years old. There was no ways we could sign a 37-year-old in the West, in Cape Town. Not when we have the options of Gelant or playing a Damien Willemse at fullback. Nizam Carr coming back from Wasps again. You talked earlier on the show about Choki or Christus. Now, what do I say to Choki when I signed Nizam Carr from Wasps on a big money as a number 8? And I say, Choki, we told you when you're 21, you're the world player of the year, under 20, you're the future. But hang on, we're bringing back a Springbok. So we did lose a couple. Mark, we did lose 2 good youngsters in Skalk Erasmus and Dave Creel. But then if we bring Warwick Gelant in, then I'm saying, and he's a youngster, and we're backing him to be the future. He wants to be a one-club man now, like Sia Khaleesi. Interesting what he said about Sia. He wants to be a one-club man. Warwick he's from the Cape. He wants to settle here. Then I am blocking David Creel's pathway to a degree. So when David Creel comes to me and says, "Listen, you've signed Warwick Gelant, and I'm really ambitious. I don't think we ever want to get to the stage where I'm going to keep somebody because he's got a signed contract. Skalk Erasmus, the hooker who's going to the Bulls now, was still under contract with us, but he wanted to go. He's got an opportunity there, and that's where he wants to be. You don't want a guy in your changing room who's feeling like we haven't backed him or we haven't got a plan for him. And Skalk was time for him to go, so he goes to the Bulls with the best of luck. And I think, and I don't want please, I want this to come across the right way. I think it's fantastic for South African rugby if the Bulls, Stormers, Sharks, Lions even get head to head. I don't think it's good. We have a mentality in our sport, and maybe you know more than me, maybe it's others in other countries or in other sports, that we sort of take joy when another one's down, and people sort of wanted, when we fighting to keep Peter Steph du Toit, you could feel the rest of South Africa, us wanting us to lose Peter Steph du Toit. That's not good for South African rugby. You want the world player of the year playing in South Africa. You want that Bulls to have a snorting pack under a world champion coach like Jake White as a pride of the nation. And we've got to go up there and play them. That's what we want. Put 40,000 people in Loftus, all painted with blue faces, and let's go for it. That's good for sports, So, yeah, that's my argument there. There's nobody we've really lost. We really wanted, we're absolutely desperate for. So, the fact that we've got 8 of the World Cup squad, they're 11 at the moment. I think it changes when when Dwayne and France come back. But just before the new season starts, there were 11, and we've got 8 of them with Warwick coming in the Western Cape, and I think that's something for us to be very proud of.
Absolutely. And hey, does Bongi Bonambi have like a 12-pack? Is he the world's most ripped man?
Yes, he's an angry little thing. Wow. They call him Tyson, and not only for the sporting reasons. I think he's a tough human being. I wouldn't like. I played hooker, and if I saw that thing running on against me, I'd say
no, you don't want any of that. Listen, another question for you, Coach, before I let you go. Little time out there. Question for you, John. Do any SA Super Rugby teams know what the plans are in terms of resuming rugby, says Jacques Joubert?
Yeah, well, you alluded earlier to a call we were having this evening with SA Rugby. The problem with rugby is, unlike, you can see how the Bundesliga came back so quickly, and I think it was common cause that their injuries were quite, I think, 2 or 3 times what they normally would be. Unfortunately for rugby, we need 6 to 8 weeks. The longer we go on, we could have done the 3-week thing. We could have got back within a week. Got to 5 weeks. We could have got back within 2 to 3. Now we have to do a full preseason, which is getting towards 8 weeks. So assuming we get the blessing, of the government and we observe those protocols, the best is probably 8 weeks. So you probably look at just add 8 weeks to where we are now. That's if we get the green light straight away, and that might be a week or two's coming. So, God willing, we're on the field late August, early September, and hopefully then we'll go later into the year just to make sure the broadcast and the people have got some rugby to enjoy. But I'm pretty sure just physically, for no other reason than injuries, and we won't be on the field for a couple of months, I don't think.
Hey, listen, if the cupboard gets bare, I don't mind shaking off the old cobwebs. Pay me 3 million rand. That's all I ask. Bring me down there. And I'll
come visit you.
Drop goals. Coach, one more question before I let you go. This has been a great conversation, by the way. I'm so happy that John Dobson came on, the second best Dobson. Mark LaRue says, the Stormers always seem to fall short come quarterfinal time. This is a great question. What has it been about the Stormers? Because I just want to sort of put some texture to that. Remember when they had like the whole Springbok team and the B team of the Springbok team, and they still couldn't get it done? They had like Jacques Fourie, Brian Abana, Skalkberg.
Yeah.
What is it do you think?
We played the final in 2010, and since then, Mark's right. We've given it up in big games, and often those games have been at home. We haven't got a great record for a franchise. We're the best supported franchise in Super Rugby across the whole of the tournament, and we've had some stellar teams. I think, I'll give you one example where there's a thing. We played the Bulls a few years ago, and it was in a league game, and Newland was packed, and then we charged, I must be careful I don't get fired like Nick Mullet was, 300-something rand for a ticket. And the guys ran on against the Chiefs in the quarterfinal, and the stadium was half full because I think it was 350 rand ticket just before payday. And people were waiting for us they said, okay, well, they'd rather not spend it in a quarterfinal, they'll spend the money on the semi-final. Of course, there wasn't one. And so, when Sam Kane said when he ran onto Newlands and saw the stadium was half empty, he thought, okay, well, their own people don't even back them, and we've got a chance here. We haven't got a good record in the playoffs, and we can go into various sports from various NBA, NFL, the pro tier franchises to why that's the case. The thing is now that we've built a new team over the last year, and we've kept a team that can playing together in 2020, hopefully, and definitely 2021. Got the national captain, the world player of the year. Now it's up to us. If we then mess it up again at a quarterfinal stage, and there's something inherently wrong, but we've got to take this opportunity.
Ladies and gentlemen, out of Bishops, the coaching factory, they had Mallet, now they've got Dobson coming out. It has been an absolute pleasure. Hey, Coach, I can't wait to have you on again because there's so much more ground that I feel we could cover. But I'd love to have you on again. And if you want to have that Rassie Erasmus guy, we can have a 3-way chat, and maybe we can all fix rugby together. Because I know he's won a World Cup, but as you heard, I really know what I'm talking about. You think that Rassie guy knows what he's doing? Let me tell you something. I'm going to fix everything. So get Rassie next time. We all sit together and we fix this rugby thing for everybody. Coach, you are unbelievable. You're doing an incredible job. The Stormers were looking probably the best they've been since 2010. And I'm being dead honest, and I'm a Lions fan. This is the best you've been since 2010. So I want to wish you all the best, and I cannot wait to have you back on to chat more rugby and whatever we want to talk about. So I cannot wait to have you on, and I'm so appreciative of your time. Thank you so much, Coach.
No, thanks for a great chat. I really, really, really enjoyed it. It's a great level of debate. Thanks very much.
That's awesome. I'll give you a call tomorrow just to let you know what other stuff you can do with your sort of 7, 8, and 6 combination. But that's for tomorrow.
Thanks. I'll see you for a cocktail.
Ladies and gentlemen, John Dobson.
Thanks for that.
That is awesome. John Dobson. Hey, Vody, that's a great chat. That's John Dobson.
Yeah, he's quite an intelligent guy. You have to look at it that way. I don't want to give him too much credit.
Yeah, well, hey, I look at your bookshelf and I look at his bookshelf. I'm like, hey, we know where the brains are.
Well, there are books behind the books in my bookshelf. I just need a bigger one. It will look more impressive. That's the only thing. He's got a big bookshelf. Maybe they're empty books.
Vody, I don't have time for excuses. Like, I'm not here to listen to your excuses. I saw his books, right? Being underrated is a failure in presentation. Get a bigger bookshelf. give me all of these excuses. Hey, John Dobson, that was awesome. Do you hear what he said about Sia Khaleesi? Just Sia's like the next Nelson Mandela.
Yeah, I mean, what we see from Sia on the outside and hearing these stories of what comes from the inside and how he inspires the people around him on the inside in the rugby team, it's really, I think it puts a lot of our trust back into even what I said before. If he can rally up people like this, imagine what we can do in another 4 years' time. We can get people behind him like we did.
Hey, like I said, I mean, Rachel's busy setting up all those Instagram shots. Those must take forever to take. That guy must be so patient. I mean, that is crazy. And then he's still got the energy to come out and win the World Cup. Great job, Sia Khaleesi. And then also, we got to also remember, did you hear him say I was right about fixing rugby? That's John Dobson. He's a legacy.
The biggest mistake he has ever made in his entire life. And I'm going to phone him after this and I'm going to tell him that, because we are never going to hear the end of this. Never.
Dave, we're going to cut that because John Dobson said, I fixed world rugby, basically. I'm paraphrasing. John Dobson said, fire the guy who's the Beaumont or whatever, who's the head of rugby. Get this guy in there. He knows what he's talking about. That was a great chat.
Anyone can do a better job than Beaumont at the moment.
Well, hey, not everyone's me. I think John Dobson, I'm not going to listen to you. John Dobson, legendary Bishop's guy, said Mbulelo Tinta is the greatest mind rugby's ever seen. Basically, I'm paraphrasing. You got to eke it out of him. He's a professional. He's not going to say it. Hey, we're going to take a few social media questions before we get out of here, Woude. Dave, what you got for me? Woude, how do you rate John as a coach? And he spelled coach as couch.
As a couch.
Or what is he saying? That is John overweight? I mean, that's a shot at John. Hey, that John Dobson is a legendary figure in the Cape, Mark Leroux. He also said that I'm the smartest guy in rugby. But anyway, Woude, what do you think of him as a coach?
I've always liked John as a coach. Even when he was still coaching the Currie Cup side, he was really doing well. And what I liked and what he was doing now is that he really thinks outside of the box and he sees the players for what they are. He doesn't just, like we keep saying, we keep repeating this, is that he's not necessarily playing the best guy, he is playing the right guy. And he is preparing for the future. He's really putting a lot of effort into the youngsters and bringing them through and managing them properly, because at that level you also need management. But from being such an intelligent person and taking that onto the rugby field, I think it's a great combination. And I think for those who don't know, John actually wrote 2 books. So he's not just, so there's so much more to him from just being the guy on the rugby. He wasn't just a rugby player that became a rugby coach. There was a lot more that he did. So very intelligent guy, good coach. I like him. You like him?
Yeah. I mean, him and I will probably write 2 more books about fixing rugby. We got another question here from Sihle Jam Jam. Oxenchair is a pure bag of explosives. Frodo Baggins' muscular brother. Oxenchair is something else. Yeah, I'd have to agree. He is a freak.
No, I don't think that was really a question. But what more can you say to a statement like that?
Hey, and I'm the guy who fixed rugby, so if there was something to say, I'd know it. I'd know it. Dave, I think this show's over. I think this show's over. Or do we have another question? If we've got another question, let's see it. All right, let's keep it rolling. Shemi Morakure says, United drawing to Villa must be the greatest joke since the announcement of lockdown advanced level 3. Shemi Murakure. Wowee. So he's a big Manchester United fan. There's nothing I can do to help you about being the 5th best club in England. There's nothing I can do about that. Jacques Chabert says, won't be surprised if Gilmore gets to start for Villa this weekend gets to start for Chelsea versus Villa this weekend. Hey, Jacques, I agree. And what I like about Lampard is that he'll start the best player. Like everyone's going, who's this Tammy Abraham guy? He's like, no, I've seen enough. This is our best finisher. There's a great saying in sport. If you're good enough, you're old enough. Billy Gilmore is a throwback to Paul Scholes. 2-touch football. He's got a tremendous technique, which means at defensive midfield, his passes are cutting through the lines. That's the term in football when you pass between the lines. So that's when you cut the zones between the midfielders, defenders, and centre mids. He passes it early before the defence is set, unlike Jorginho, who is like a geriatric, an absolute geriatric. Dave, you got anything else for me? Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for today. I mean, I cannot believe John Dobson and I are going to save rugby. What a show. Woude, great work out there. It was great work. Ladies and gentlemen, I say this every time. You could have spent this time doing whatever you wanted with whoever you wanted, but you chose us. And I say this from the bottom of my heart. I thank you. I thank you for taking the time to be with us. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the biggest show. Hey, big time show. Be a friend, tell a friend. Tell them the guy who saved rugby has just launched a digital revolution along with Big Shot Media, Cliff Central, and Woude Muller. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a different ball game. We will see you on the morrow.